We have to interrupt Sports World because Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is speaking now at the presidential palace in Ankara. Let's listen in.
They are distinguishing good and bad tourists. Turkey has been principled. Turkey has stayed principled in this process. Turkey defends democracy in Syria. We are saying the same thing from the first day. Our brothers in Syria are under the attack, and they cannot be forced choosing between the regime attacks and terrorist organizations. The Syrian people who are forced to choose between these bad options, those who are forcing them are not humanitarian. Like, there are no bad or good terrorists. The Al-Qaeda-Nusra relation is the same as PKK and YPG relations. When it comes to Daesh, those who are even ready to ruin the whole world, they show that they are supporting YPG. Months ago, I said train and equip projects and no-fly zones and safe zones. When I mentioned these three things, those who did not like, now they say they want to say yes to no-fly zone. When there are those who say yes to safe zones, but they don't say yes to no-fly zone. I'm asking, United States, you did not say yes to no-fly zone. Now there are all these Russian planes in that area, and there are thousands and tens of thousands oppressed people are dying there. We were coalition forces. We were supposed to act together as coalition forces. What happened? Now, they are saying Turkey, they are asking Turkey to stop bombing YPG. I am sorry, we don't think so. Turkey, if someone starts bombing or throwing bombs to Turkey, they will get their response. Everyone should know this. And this is in line with the international engagement rules. We are doing this and we will do this. In the eastern and southeastern areas, the arms used against our security forces and the militants are from PYG. We know this. The logistical support given to this organization are used against us. And in Syria, the arms given to YPG are used against the citizens and the opposition. When everything is so open and clear, not seeing the relation between YPG and PKK is something against Turkey. No matter how much they try to ignore this, we will keep calling terrorist organizations, and we will act accordingly. My dear friends, there's no need to fool each other. The picture in Syria is very clear. Allegedly, in operation against Daesh, all the forces who are in Syria, they are not trying to combat terrorism. Russia is not trying to combat Daesh using this. It's trying to protect its interests. Right now in Syria, everyone is trying to protect its state and government and its calculations in the Syria. Only Turkey Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan, who are the neighbors, feel the real pain. They don't hurt. We hurt. Lebanon hurt. Jordan hurt. European countries which face a very small fragment of the refugee crisis, it's obvious how they suffer, and they make all this noise, and they still cannot understand Turkey and other countries who are facing this problem. And Turkey, in addition to refugee influx, has other problems. The calculations on the region has repercussions in Turkey. For example, Russia came to the area saying it will combat Daesh, but did nothing more than to help the regime. In the same way, PYD, terrorist organization, saying that fighting the Daesh, they are forcing the Turkmen and Kurdish and Arab citizens over there. All the organization was trying to support the regime, and the countries who support the regime, their practices, anti-humanitarian practices, we very well know. Again, the Assad regime is not fighting Daesh. It is only fighting the opposition. Please remember that other than Iraq and Syria, Turkey is the most targeted country by Daesh, because Turkey is the country weighing the biggest. On the other hand, PYD's activities on the border has the potential to create important events in Turkey. Their politics in Syria, we don't have the luxury to just watch their politics there. For our national unity, the combat within our border, that is the same to us in terms of sensitivity to what's going on the Syrian side of the border, because they're very closely related. In terms of Syria, what we do is self-defense. Those who cannot understand this sensitivity, or who do not respect this, will pay for this. Turkey will not step back, or Turkey is not a country that will step back or surrender in face of the arms that is targeted towards it. When it comes to the future of this country, they should read the history books, and there are so many examples about this. Our engagement rules today might be just answering the attacks towards us, but maybe in the future it might be enlarged to comprise all types of threats towards our Turkey. I would like to say very clearly here that on the southern border, we will not let a new Kandil Mountain area to be formed. PYD terrorist organization provocative steps we will not let these. They cannot create de facto situations in Turkey, despite Turkey. We cannot keep silent to this. All the terrorist organizations in Syria that threaten Turkey, we will not hesitate to take steps against them. Those who should be pressured about this is not Turkey, but those who are in Syria. If you are trying to de-escalate the situation, we should refrain from steps that are encouraging some terrorist organizations, not
hastaneleri bombalayarak, misket bombaları ve balistik füzelerle sivil halkı katlederek en büyük desteği veren Rusya'dır.
It's Russia who supports the regime by bombing all the civilians and civilian areas. Only in the last days, 600 people were killed by Russian attacks, and those who did not raise their voices against this are part of this crime. The international community has to raise its voices against Russia. Those who cannot do this cannot say anything about those Turkey has to say about what Turkey has to do to protect its borders. Turkey has is using making all these in line with its allies and forces. Our aim is not to get a burden to our nation. On the other hand, on the contrary, we are trying to whatever it takes to whatever it falls on us to protect our borders. What is going to be determined about this is how these other people behave. What is important about our survival might be just tactics or operations for that. We cannot give up this. If behind what they do is the aim to test Turkey's patience, they need to know that we are running out of our patience. My dear brother, the developments in the northern Syria have affected especially our country and Western Europe. There's a refugee influx. As you know, Turkey for a long time has asked to establish a security corridor. And we have been asking this for a long time now. Lately, there are some countries who are warming up to this idea. We can see that. In the areas close to our borders, there are so many refugee camps. All the areas under PYD strikes, especially Azaz, there are so many refugee centers. And hundreds of thousands of people running from the fighting in Syria, they are trying to survive here. And the connection between Turkey and Aleppo are also have also gone from this area, and the regime and the countries supporting the regime are trying to establish their own corridor in this line to threaten Turkey. And PYD is just a pawn in this game. It's so obvious. Even the Kurdish people in the area do not support this organization. For this reason, PYD is oppressing Syrian Kurds along with Arabs and Turkmens. And these Syrian Kurds, when I mentioned when I was good with Assad, and when I asked why they do not consider the Syrian Kurds as citizens and do not give ID cards. Right now in Turkey, in our cities and in our camps, there are hundreds of thousands of Syrian Kurds living. From Kobani, in only 1 week, around 200,000
Biz mi aldık?
Kurdish
Yoksa
brothers
birileri mi
came.
aldı? Soruyor. Kim aldı?
Who were those? Who was the country
Yediren,
receiving
içiren,
these
giydiren
Kurds?
kimdi?
Who did
Türkiye
feed
Cumhuriyeti.
these people? It was Turkish Republic.
Ama birileri bunu
But
öyle lanse etmediler.
some people do
Farklı bir
not
şekilde lanse.
show this.
Hala o şekilde lanse
They
etmeye devam
they
ediyor.
they showed it in a
Ne
different
yaparlarsa
way.
yapsınlar.
No matter what
At
they do,
denize, balık bilmezse Halik bilir. Biz bu şekilde gidiyoruz. PKK'nın
do your
ülkemizde
good deed. This
uygulamaya
is what
çalıştığı
I
projeyi
mean.
PYD Suriye'de yapıyor.
The PKK's project in
sayıca
Turkey
az ama
is reflected in
silahları
the
ve
PYD's plan in
bulundukları bölgedeki
in
diğer
Syria.
insanlar üzerinde tahakküm kuran,
They are trying
gücünü
to,
baskıdan
they might be
ve
small, but they are
kandan
trying
alan
to
sapkın bir örgüt.
oppress and use
Bu
arms
örgüte
on the
alan
areas that they are
açma
located.
amacıyla
In order to give area to
desteklenen
this
veya göz yumulan son gelişmelerin bir ucu
area to this,
eninde sonunda Batı ülkelerine ulaşacaktır.
and I'm telling you,
Diğer
this
kardeşlerimiz gibi.
this
Bu
will
olayların akabinde ülkemize
finally
sığınacak
reach
herkese
Europe.
elbette kucağımızı açarız.
We will always
Ama
open
kendilerine,
our doors to
Batı
those who are
ülkelerinde
trying to flee
gelecek
these.
aramak için yola devam etmek
But those
isteyenlere
who
de
want to go
diyecek bir sözümüz
to
olmaz.
to the
Mesele
Western
sadece
countries
para,
to
pul,
establish their future
finansman
there, we
meselesi
cannot say
olmaktan
no.
çıkmıştır.
It's not just
Ki
about money
Avrupa Birliği bu
or
konudaki sözünü
financing
dahi henüz
anymore.
tutamamıştır.
And also, European
Artık
Union did
mesele bu
not even
milyonlarca
keep its
insanın
promises in this sense.
kendilerine güvenli bir gelecek için
Millions
daha
of-
ne kadar sabredeceklerdir diye soruyorum.
I want to ask how much more millions of people can wait for a safe
Bu süreçte
for a
bütün
safe life.
gayretleriyle
All our
gerçekten
NGOs
takdire
and
şayan bir
our
gayretin
government
içinde
emergency and disaster
ortaya
authorities have
uygulamalar
been
koyuyor.
making a lot of
Başta
projects.
Kızılay olmak
Our
üzere
deputy
sığınmacılara
governors
yardımcı olan
and
tüm
the
kurumlarımıza
Red Crescent,
gerekli kolaylığı sağladığına, desteği verdiğine
I
inanıyorum.
believe that our deputy governors help Red Crescent and other NGOs.
Kendi nüfusunu dahi geçmiş durumda.
In cities like Kilis, the number of refugees has surpassed the citizens. This is not
Batı
sustainable.
ülkeleri Ne kadar hoyrat,
And the Western
ne kadar
countries
insafsız, ne
have,
kadar vicdansız davranırlarsa davransınlar. Bu
despite
akını kontrol altında tutma
cannot
şansları yok.
cannot control this influx no matter how they behave. For this reason, solving the crisis in Syria, reaching a consensus is important.
Çeşitli platformlarda
In different
konuda
platforms,
ideal değilse bile
although it's not
verici bir
ideal,
takım gelişmeler yaşanmıştır.
there are some
Ancak
promising
hesaplarla
developments, but
bölgede
with
askeri
different
güç kullanmaya
calculations,
girişen Rusya gibi ülkeler bu gelişmeleri
countries
adeta
like
sabote
Russia
ettiler. Daha da acı
sabotage
olan,
these
sorunun çözümünde söz
developments.
sahibi olan diğer bir takım ülkeler
And some other
bu
countries
açık
which
sabotaja
has
rıza göstermek ve dolaylı destek vermek durumunda kalmışlardır.
had to
Artık
say
denizin
yes.
bittiği yere gelinmiştir.
Now it is
Ya bu mesele
where
kısa sürede çözüm yoluna girecek ya da
it's
kar
ended.
topu gibi
We have
büyüyen
to
ve
either
yakın
say
uzak
put an
tanımadan
end to
tüm
this,
dünyayı
or
etkisi altına
it will
alacak daha büyük
turn
sorunların
into
kapısı açılacaktır.
even bigger problems
Biz tüm
that will
meselelere
affect
bu hassasiyetle
everything. This
yaklaşıyoruz.
is our sensitivity in
Biz Suriye
all these
halkının en kısa
issues.
sürede barışa, huzura,
We want
güvenliğe
Syrian
kavuşmasını, kendi
Syrian
geleceğini,
people
kendi
to
belirleme hakkına sahip olmasını
reach
istiyoruz.
peace and have the
Bu
right
yöndeki
to
tüm
determine their
çözümlere
own future.
destek vermeye hazırız.
We are ready to support
Suriye
all
bahanesiyle
solutions for
hayata
this.
geçirilmeye çalışan diğer senaryoları
All other
başarı
scenarios,
şansı olmadığı iyi bilinmelidir.
they do not have any luck for success. This should not be known.
Canına taş atmamalıdır. Biz tüm meselelere
With-
bu hassasiyetle
We are
yaklaşıyoruz.
approaching all these
Diğer
issues with
ülkeleri
this
de aynı
sensitivity, and
hassasiyetle
we invite
konumlarını yeniden
other countries
değerlendirmeye
to
davet ediyoruz.
re-evaluate their
Biz macera peşinde
situation.
değiliz
We
kardeşlerim.
are not trying
Kimsenin de
to
maceraya atılmasını arzu etmiyoruz.
create any adventure, and we don't want
Türkiye,
anyone to create any
bölgesindeki
adventure.
tüm sorunlar karşısında
Turkey
dikkatli ve ilkeli bir politika izlerken
is following a very important and politics. Right now, as you know, we are talking about the new presidency system, and we are talking. We know that Turkey. I believe that Turkey has the knowledge to create new presidency system.
Veyahut da darbeyle yapılan o anayasadaki veya yasalardan tümünün değiştirilmesi.
All the laws that was made after the coup d'etat should be changed, and then we can start working on the new constitution.
2000-2500 madde.
It is around 2,500 articles. We will have to go over this. Let's say every article takes 1 or 2 days. It will take 3 or 4 years, and then we will be able to start the constitution. This is not a good logic. This is just trying to prevent this process. What type of approach is this? During my prime ministry, it was the same. 47 articles were reviewed by three representatives from all the political parties, and the leader of the opposition said, let's pass these 47 articles, and we talked about this, and when we talked, they said the other 2 parties should say yes too. I mean, the representatives have already signed under these changes. It means yes. It did not happen. Later on, it was 60 articles, and I sent my friends and I asked them to talk with the oppositions. They already signed these. I said, let's pass these. They said, okay, no, 4 parties have to sign.
Well, that was Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan speaking at the presidential palace in the capital, Ankara there. Let's just recap some of the points he was making. He was talking about events in northern Syria over the last few days and outlining Turkey's position following Turkey's shelling of YPG positions. He started by saying that there were no good or bad terrorists, and that to combat the threat, Turkey's Deputy Prime Minister has been speaking about a humanitarian corridor between Turkey and Syria. We'll get a recap from our correspondent Asha Tanner, who's in Ankara now. Asha, you've been listening in to what President Erdogan had to say then. I'll just recap the main issues that he was making during his speech in Ankara.
Political
Okay, we appear to have
parties.
lost contact with Asha Tanner in Ankara. Let's just recap then what President Erdogan had to say. He started by outlining that there were no good or bad terrorists in Syria, saying that you can't differentiate between the YPG or al-Nusra and al-Qaeda.
A new decision.
He had a message to the United States as well, saying that America didn't want a no-fly zone now that Russian planes circle above the skies and there are thousands of refugees. I believe that Asha Tanner can now hear us, or at least we can now hear her. Asha, let's try again. I mean, let's try and make contact. Just recap exactly what President Erdogan had to say.
Well, earlier, Paul, we heard from the Deputy Prime Minister who was speaking about calling for a humanitarian corridor, and Recep Tayyip Erdogan mentioned this. He said that only Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan, who are neighbours, feel the real pain of the refugee crisis, and that the EU countries only feel a small fragment of that refugee crisis. He said that the number of refugees in Kilis, which is a border town of Turkey, has now surpassed the number of citizens, and that is not sustainable. Now, there were aerial strikes on Monday on the town of Azaz, which is just 8 kilometres from Kilis. And that humanitarian border corridor that I mentioned, the plans are to create a safe zone of 10 kilometres, which would include that area. The president also went on to say that Turkey found it very difficult to understand why the US will not see the PYD as a terrorist organisation. Now, their armed wing group, the YPG, have been making advances, and that has been possible because of the airstrikes carried out by Moscow, who is supporting the Assad regime. The PYD Turkey sees as an offshoot of the terror organisation, the PKK. He mentioned the fact that many of the allies were saying yes to a no-fly zone, yes to a safe zone, but no to a no-fly zone. On Monday, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel expressed her concern about the number of refugees leaving Syria and suggested that if a no-fly zone could be agreed upon, this would be the best way to protect the humanitarian issue that we are now seeing unfolding. He went on to say that Turkey needs to protect its national unity in terms of its borders, and what they do is that it's out of self-defense.
Okay, Asha, thank you very much. Asha Tanner there listening in Ankara. Meanwhile, the Syrian Red Crescent says that it's preparing to deliver aid to some of the many besieged areas across Syria. On Tuesday, the UN said the regime approved access to 7 besieged areas. Let's get more on this from Annelies Borges, who's in Turkey on the southern border with Syria. Annelies, what's the latest? Is the aid getting through? I know the UN envoy to Syria said that this is a test. Has that test, have they passed? Do we know?
Well, this is basically a test of the Syrian regime's commitment. This was a deal agreed upon by the UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, and the Syrian regime. And it involves delivering humanitarian aid to 7 besieged towns in Syria. According to local humanitarian agencies, according to the UN as well, these 100 trucks have been loaded with food and medical supplies and are now about to depart Damascus towards besieged areas in rural Damascus as well as in Idlib province. That involves, of course, Madaya, that city where at least 24 people have starved to death. And according to the UN, there are 19 besieged cities in Syria that need help, and that is affecting about 1 million people.
Okay, Annelies, thank you very much. Annelies Borges reporting there.